My stupid Chud alter.
My stupid Chud alter has a stupid fucking crush on the gay Chud that we didn't kill and decided to keep in a cage.
On the gay Chud.
On the gay Chud.
On the gay Chud. Welcome to Open House, a podcast about comics about Homestuck, and an examination of digital stories in the 21st century. I'm your host, Tempest2K, she, her.
I am, Odd, she, her.
And I am Melanie, she, he.
JADE ROUTE is a webcomic by SPICYYETI, he, him, that was posted from July 9th, 2019 to April 13th, 2020 on Twitter, focusing on Jade after the end of the Homestuck epilogues. It's currently hosted on SPICYYETI.com, presented in pixel-perfect quality. That is the best place to read it. If you read it on Twitter, it's so blurry. It was originally a thread on Twitter. In 2020, JADE ROUTE is positioned as a sequel to the Homestuck epilogues, focused on Jade Harley. It's on SPICYYETI.com, along with a few other works, like Godhead and Y12K. It's also, if you listened to the Open House Computer Entertainer, it is the first FRAF work that we'll be covering.
Yeah.
The first of many, I am told.
Yeah.
This is correct.
I just want this to be clear here. I want this on record, honest to God. God is my witness. Something 30 million to God. Looking at the schedule ahead for a lot of the comics we want to cover here, the decisions here were made long before a lot of the FRAF announcements. It's just looking at a lot of the works that were kind of very popular and influential in the scene in the past 5-ish years, and the works that have been at this up until this point, the 15th of February, to FRAF. It's like pretty much a circle. So there'll be some overlap.
Hey, and that's the reason why they got frafted. So I mean, hey.
Yeah, seal of quality.
Yeah.
But yeah. So JADE ROUTE. I can speak for myself here. I read JADE ROUTE first. Had to be like 2 years ago. It was like some time ago. I want to say even before Beyond Canon's announcement, but I'm not totally sure about that.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious to see when you both read it for the first time, if it was now or...
The first time that I read it was actually approximately maybe a little less than a year ago. I read it on live stream for Voft.
I knew about JADE ROUTE when it was being posted. I had heard people talking about it, but I didn't read it until back in September when we were the first time we tried to record. We've tried to record this episode a few times, but disasters kept getting in the way. God tried to stop us.
This is true.
But God wasn't strong enough, because here we are.
God wasn't strong enough.
Finally.
Also, I wanna just say it's really nice to have you on, Odd, because you gave me the kick in the pants to organize this whole damn podcast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something to the tune of, because you're a freak about Jade Harley in specific.
Yeah, yeah, you're also the Jade Harley girly that I know. Like, the Jade Harley girly that I know.
There's a couple these days. It's a crowded market.
There are many, but you are at the top of the list in my mind of people I know. When I started reading JADE ROUTE, I have to say I almost instantly fell in love with the graphical style. I was especially impressed with the way that it felt like it was utilizing the interface of being on a website, with the way there's some pages you have to scroll to get the whole picture. There were a lot of things that had me thinking, how was this a thing that was originally for Twitter? Because so much of its presentation just makes no sense as something exclusive to Twitter.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I really loved when I was reading it, is like that weird presentation of like needing to scroll around the page sometimes to like fully get what is being presented. I think it adds a lot to it. And I'm gonna be real, I didn't even know that it originally was on Twitter. So imagining that is insane to me.
It was on the mind a lot.
I mean, I can speak for myself in this sense. It reminds me a lot of, what's his name? Who did Understanding Comics?
Scott McCloud.
Scott McCloud talks a lot about, the potential of the internet. I believe in the sequel to Understanding Comics, which is like Progressing Comics, something like that. It's the sequel to Understanding Comics. It's not the work itself. Understanding Comics is great. It's an amazing book, and you should read it. And in the series of it, if not in the book itself, he talks a little bit about the idea of, like, the infinite canvas as a concept. You know, the idea that with the web, because the page isn't a physical limitation anymore, you can kind of expand it in any way you want. Oftentimes this is talked about in very specific context of, like, webtoons. You know, you have your infinite scroll, you start at the top of the page, you start at the top of the page, and you start, like, you know, slowly working your way down, but it's kind of linear and very kind of like, you know, there's just like a new formula, you know, it's just the difference between scrolling to the side or scrolling up and down. But here with Jade Route, it's very, very freeform. Some pages will make you start at one side and scroll slowly all the way across. Some pages will make you scroll downwards. Some pages are just huge spreads, and you have to just kind of like awkwardly skim around them as best as you can. And some of them are pretty tightly kept. There's not really a good way to predict what way Jade Route's going to go next, and I really do love the way that it kind of utilizes this format anarchy, for lack of a better word, to kind of tell its story in the most eclectic way it can.
Mm-hmm. It's something that I don't think this does it as much, but I don't know if you read the Valentine's Power Love that the official Homestuck server put out yesterday.
Yeah, I did read that.
It doesn't, it's not quite as like anarchy about it. It is kind of closer to the infinite scroll, but it uses HTML to have selectable text all over the page, but it also just does what the fuck ever. And like sometimes there will be guest art and it's just linked and you can go to their Twitter or whatever. And you can definitely tell there's a lot of Spicy Yeti DNA in there. I think Spicy Yeti even did some of the art.
I could buy it.
Yeah, I would definitely buy it if that were the case, seeing some of the art in there.
Definitely not all of it, but a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't even play Dave's Ride. I did not give a fuck. I just, I wanted to see Rose.
Sapphic lesbians.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are saying this to some extent or another. Okay. So, that's the format of Jade Route. Mind if I talk a little bit about, like, what the plot is, what happens in it?
Oh, yeah. The story is really interesting.
Long story short, Jade Route sets itself, not just literally, but also, like, kind of metaphysically between the ending of, it's not really accurate to say between the ending of the epilogues and the ending of, and the start of Homestuck 2. It's more accurate to say that it takes place within, like, an alternate universe where the epilogues are never followed up. It follows the idea that, like, you know, at the end of the epilogues, Dirk does all this crazy shit, he ultimates, he gains power over the narrative, and we see him start to, try to take the whole cast kind of out into space. He and Rose ditch the planet, and then everybody follows him, and yada yada yada. And it follows on from this specific meat route ending with this weird, aimless ambiguity, because in this world, nothing happens. There is no Homestuck 2. In fact, there wasn't one at the time the story began, so it was more kind of like a what if this never continues thing. And we're left with Dirk kind of trying to piece together the kind of person he is and what he wants to be, when there's literally nothing to work towards. So he's been losing his mind for years and, for some arbitrary amount of time by now. And so we kind of cut between him and Jade, who has been, possessed by Alt Calliope and is thus sort of out of the story, as she comes back to her senses, tries to pick up the pieces to herself, and eventually goes on her own pathway of self-discovery, ascension, transcension, yada yada. Jade has fun.
Jade has fun. I really like the dynamic between Jade and Dirk. Jade being able to see Dirk's text.
Yeah, and just I really liked the narration from Dirk, basically like acting as if he's been watching them for a while as like his own little reality show of just like, it's like, oh yeah, I love Karkat's my favorite character. Like
I am not one of those people who lives for Dirk angst, but I there is a passage that I wrote down in my notes while I was reading for the first time that just really, really hit me, which is I believe this is backwards on screen when you actually see it, but Jade is trying to wake Kanaya up, but Dirk has just given up completely. And he's like, fuck it, whatever. If you're reading this somehow, you take the reins. I'm done. And he says, just promise me you'll always remember them. You can never, ever stop thinking about them, or they won't exist anymore. And you have to promise me you'll do it right. You have to know them like I do. No shitty B plots, no out-of-character dialogue. You can't let them stagnate either. You have to push them, but please don't break them. They deserve a good eternity. And just that hits me. That's good stuff.
It's stuff like that that just, like, really makes me love Old Dirk, because, like, even though he's doing shitty actions, like, he's doing this for, like, what he thinks is the sake of all his friends. And I think that, like, just that kind of ends up showing itself in here pretty well, of, like, he's doing this for his friends even if he doesn't exactly know what he's doing.
Yeah, old Dirk as a concept is compelling because his entire arc is just this epitome of masculinity and toxic masculinity, and this idea that to be the best person for everyone around you, you have to be a horrible person that pushes all of your friends. I don't know, that's just very compelling. But did you have something to say about Dirk?
A little bit, yeah. I was gonna just say, like, it's an interesting take on his character, because you can really tell it leans on from the epilogues. We haven't seen a lot of him in Beyond Canon, i.e. 2023 onwards, but in Homestuck Squared, i.e. the comic up until 2020, there's more of, like, an outside-facing angle to Dirk. Like, he's a lot more focused on presenting to the audience, on, like, the idea of, he has ideas of what Homestuck should be like, he has ideas of what, like, a good story should be like, and he's largely more concerned with how the audience engages with the text and how the audience engages with him as a person, right? Here, it's kind of implied a little bit that, like, there's not really a meaningful audience here to begin with, so instead Dirk is a lot more kind of inwardly facing. He mentions an audience, he's kind of talking like a Twitch streamer, like, Chad, are you seeing this right now? But he's clearly a lot more focused on, like, his friends and himself, how he thinks of himself. Because as much as he refers to the idea of these friends are fictional, that nothing matters, and that his only job here is to keep the story going until, the end of eternity, there is a very strong sense that, like, Dirk doesn't... Without an audience, Dirk can't really lean into that character he's constructed for himself more, so it's a lot more vulnerable and raw. I'd say more in line with the Dirk we get in the epilogues, really, where we see so much of it inside his head that it's hard to really feel like he is, like, the cool, badass, ultra-anime guy that he kind of presents himself as in later elements of the story,
Yeah.
I also like how Rosebot is presented. She's really fun. I like how she's just really chipper all the time. She's just like, yep, whatever you say, Dirk. Uh-huh. Whatever you say, father. Don't fucking call me that. Okay, father. But enough about those fucking losers. Let's talk about Jade. Jade.
Oh yeah.
I love Jade so much.
I really like that one of the first things that Jade gets to do is meet another version of herself. I'm pretty sure that's just supposed to be Candy Jade, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, like, essentially Candy Jade, almost like the worst route Candy Jade could have ended up after the events of the end of Candy timeline epilogues.
Yeah. I like how even Jade route, it seems to conclude that the Candy route kind of just doesn't matter, which I think that's a little funny because of the current direction Beyond Canon is kind of going with it.
Yeah, where Candy is basically now joining in with meat, basically.
In the same way that Jade eats Candy Jade. Yep. And becomes more Jade.
I have some, like, if you're willing to let me go on a bit of a classical oddity tangent for a second here, I do have some thoughts on Jade's.
Oh, absolutely.
Alright. So, Jade Harley, from Homestuck. You know her, you love her. You really love her. In fact, some of you out there in the audience love her a little bit too much. I think that there's a little interesting part of Jade's fandom ongoing, sort of both during Homestuck and especially after the end of Homestuck, where Jade kind of oftentimes takes on a very sort of archetypical, almost like idyllic role in fandom dynamics, right? And you can really tell this sort of influences a lot of Jade writing, Liminal Space, Jade Route, what's the word for it? I'm trying to think of some of the other Jade comics. There's like a number of Jade comics out there in the world right now.
Yeah, I can't think of any others besides those two right now.
I'm trying to remember there's one where there's like a lot of Jades. It's not
I think that's just Jade Stuck.
It might be just Jade Stuck. I'll look it up later.
That's a much more recent example.
Yeah, but a lot of these ideas focus very much on sort of the idea of Jade and sort of the thing that Jade means to people. And I'd argue that the thing that Jade means to people the most is that she is like the symbolic idea of the cool, cute kids' adventure fantasy that Homestuck presents itself as at the start, you know? More so than, like, kind of like how dweeby, June is at the start of the story. More so than, like, Dave and Rose, who are really kind of, like, ironic and kind of subverting these tropes and expectations. Jade just kind of buys fully into we're gonna go on a magical, fun fantasy adventure and it's gonna be great for everyone. And she gets brutalized by the narrative pretty much relentlessly from then on out for this purpose. Like, she's the sucker that falls for every single trick Paradox Space sets up for her, and by the end, she's, sad and alone. And I think that as a result, often the discussion of Jade is sometimes sort of a meta discussion of Homestuck itself. Has Homestuck kind of forgotten itself, has become too stuck up in its, like, kind of subversiveness and its, its structurelessness, it's pushing this way or that with its ideas in order to become, like, a story that doesn't have any of the elements that made people get into it in the start. And while I think that I predominantly disagree with this as a perspective, I love Jade. And so I think part of that says that I also love that part of Homestuck as well, And kind of making peace with the thing Homestuck is now, where it's very, angsty, very kind of oftentimes grim, very, very weird in structure, not super duper concerned with having very, like, concrete ideas and routes for itself, especially after the epilogues, but, even still a little bit now. Like, what better character to explore this through than through Jade Harley herself, who is a character who has such a strong idea of a world where she gets to be happy and fun with her friends, and seems to struggle so much with, like, kind of facing and, like, adjusting to the world as she finds it, She enters adult life, and even though she feels she's having her fun for the first time in her life, her friends are all weird and depressed, her romance things aren't going in the fairy tale way she went to, and, like, but at the same time, you kind of see the way that Jade kind of is forced to grow out of this, because she finds that there is sort of I'll get into why I think she grows out of this later, but I think at the start, I think this is an interesting concept out of itself, Jade is the idea of Homestuck as, like, acts 1 through 4 are great. I love it when characters can just be kids having fun, and it's nice when you can just have nice romances where everybody has their happily ever after. And now the epilogue's happened and everything's fucked up. What does that Jade do next?
Yeah, I think a lot of there are, like, two factions on Jade. There are the people who don't think about Jade, like, at all, and then the people who think about Jade almost too much. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't say too much to necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, but there are people who think about Jade a lot to the point where she becomes the main character of Homestuck. And there are a lot of characters where people read them in a way where they become the main character of Homestuck. I think for every single character, you will find someone whose entire basis of understanding of the comic kind of depends on their favorite character being the main character.
You see, and most of those people are wrong, but with Jade...
there's a good argument. I think. But also, I think making a work where Jade actually is the main character that isn't like revising what Homestuck is really good and really clever. Jade Route is especially clever because I would say that it was as influential on Beyond Canon and Homestuck Squared as much as it predicted the somewhat inevitable directions that it would end up going. But they didn't feel inevitable at the time. Jade Route just called just called those shots really well.
I mean, it's easy to call the shots when you wind up ultimately being part of the project, Like,
yeah.
That's true, but I am also talking about the Homestuck Squared era as well, which I think was less involved.
I will say it is really crazy, and I think we were talking about this literally just before the show. The Jade Route runs from July 9th, 2019 to April 13th, 2020. April 13th, 2020 is the very first mention of Yiffy in, like, all of Homestuck.
Yiffy!
That's yeah. Yiffy's birthday!
I love Yiffy.
And, like, she's turning 6. Wow. She's the youngest person ever.
Wow. Oh my god.
You are the youngest person ever.
That's what I'm saying. And like, Yiffy as a character is, like, so... She's, like, the most Jade Route thing in all of Homestuck Squared, like diving into like Jade's messiness, diving into her weird relationships around like, you know, marriage, reproduction, family life, or whatever. And also the way that Yiffy is like clearly meant to also be kind of like a metaphysical, like a narrative nuke on the story, to the degree that he's like, she is like the very first thing that seems to actually scare Dirk Strider, is like, I'd say it's crazy coincidental, you know. It's just it's very fortunate. I think it's a good way that you kind of see the ways that where Yeti was going on with, you know, with those ideas of post canon, and kind of the ways that the team was currently working on with Homestuck Squared. They just kind of really did align in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the more literal things that Jade does in Jade Route, which is how she's portrayed. Like she's not just sad, she's very proactive. She doesn't just she tries to sit back, and she just can't. Because for a lot of Homestuck, she does kind of just sit back, or is otherwise incapacitated. Partially because, you know, she's just that fucking powerful. But, and, you know, you gotta get your biggest player out of the picture in order to get things done sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's a lot of times where it's really not her choice of her being passive. Like she gets like taken out of play a lot, just out of her control.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I think I love Jade Route so much, because Jade is partially defined by her passiveness, but her passiveness isn't her fault most of the time. But that, you know, that still defines her. And in Jade Route, she defies this in a lot of very major ways. She goes out of her way to push herself back into the story.
I guess the reason I talked about like the idea of like kind of like Jade and like structurelessness and purity is because I feel like the very first scene, I'd say pretty much the first scene we see with Jade and Jade Route is between Meet Jade and Candy Jade, right? We see the Jade who marries Dave, has a nice relationship, and then Dave dies or is killed, one or the other, and then she winds up just stuffing his body. And in this, we see kind of, I guess, two pathways for Jade to go down. That, like, there is a world where Jade gets what she wants, you know? She gets the nice fairy tale ending she desires, she gets the happy ending that she's looking for, it's all fairy tale and stuff. And then it just winds up not really meaning anything. Like, she just winds up not really, like, wanting that as much as she thought she did, because when she sees the consequences of it, you know, violating Dave's kind of what he wants and his own desires there, she realizes pretty flat out that, like, wait a minute, is this really who I want to be? Is being the nice Jade Harley even, like, a viable option for me? And then we spend the rest of the story seeing the not nice Jade Harley. The Jade Harley who kills her alternate selves, who travels through the universe as this wrath or whatever, this specter going from world to world, taking one Jade after another, incorporating them into herself until she eventually becomes, like, you know, pretty much a second Lord English, you know? Like,
I will say, I really wish that we got to see more of her. I wish we got to see at least a little bit of her fucking going out and killing other Jades, because I mean, I think the way that it's presented is fantastic. The way that we just hard cut to, Jade and Al are gonna fight, and Jade killed all these other Jades. It's like this big reveal moment. It's really cool. But I do kind of wonder how that shit went down with the other Jades.
The other Jades.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see a 200-page story of Jade Harley killing miscellaneous people. They don't even have to be from Homestuck.
That's, you know what? That's true. That's
Spicy Yeti.
That's really true.
If by some coincidence of God you ever listen to this podcast, please make Jade Harley versus Son Goku. Thank you.
Oh my god. Oh god.
I'm into it. I'm into it. I also, real quick, I want to talk about Roxy. I loved Roxy in Homestuck 1. I hate calling it Homestuck 1. I've never called it that before. That sucks.
I've always called it Homestuck proper. I feel like Homestuck proper is like...
That's usually what I say. Yeah.
Feels
Homestuck
better
1.
coming out the mouth. Homestuck 1 sounds awful.
It is Homestuck 1. For some bullshit writing I did, I once made up Homestuck 8 Endless Heaven. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I think that sounds cool. So I think of it as Homestuck 1 because there could be so many more Homestucks. You don't even know how many Homestucks there can be. But yeah, I loved Roxy in Homestuck proper. Definitely the character that I latched onto the most personally. And in Homestuck Squared and the epilogues, it felt like Roxy did not really get a super great chance to shine. In Jade Route, Roxy is just, he's fucking beaming. He's fantastic in Jade Route. He's so fucking charismatic. Oh my god.
He's got so much personality and I fucking love it.
He's got so much personality. And I mean, I mean no shade to Homestuck Squared, but you know, reading Jade Route, I was like, holy shit, if I had read this years ago, I would have known what I was missing. Because the Homestuck Squared, Roxy doesn't really have as much of a character.
I feel like he just doesn't really get a lot of time to shine, really. I think the big thing I find that, like, Jade Route gets one thing about Roxy, I think, incredibly right, which is that, like, Roxy is so mindful and so grounded, it is sometimes like a curse that he is sometimes himself aware of. And I think it has so much, like, fun to Roxy's dynamic, you know? Like, he's not just the guy who got Homestuck right. He's the guy who got Homestuck right and finds it extremely hard to explain this to anyone else. You know? And the way that it plays this as a foil against Jade, who was similarly, like, kind of isolated and kind of lonely feeling just chronically. They're just a fun buddy pair-up, you know?
It's really, really good. And it makes me so happy with Homestuck Beyond Canon, you know, taking more and more inspiration from Spicy Yeti's work, and especially Jade Route in particular. It just makes me, you know, very hopeful for future presentations of Roxy. I'm really excited for the future of Roxy as a character.
Yeah.
And also both the candy and the meat stuff for Roxy has been great.
Yeah, and like especially like the most recent Flash Jade talk has me very excited for the future of Roxy. I think they're finally gonna get Roxy out of his shell that they've had him in.
Finally got rid of that fucking bullshit hoodie.
That bullshit hoodie. God. I will say, I did fuck with, like, the matching Callie Roxy pajamas. I did fuck with those.
Those were really good.
Those were good.
I'm actually not sure if Roxy has been shown wearing the hoodie since Beyond Canon got back. I think they might have deliberately gone out of their way to avoid that.
Yeah, I think because
I don't know. I haven't researched that.
The first update back that had Meet Roxy was the one that had the Callie Roxy pajamas. And then past that, I don't think we saw much of Meet Roxy until Jade Talk, really.
Kanaya saw the hoodie for like 3 seconds and was like, no, my son, no. And then he burned it with his telekinetic powers.
Listen, I will say, I was a big fan of the heart shades. I fucked with the heart shades. Like,
to each their own, I suppose.
I think it was a good homage to like the other males in the Strylon family of like the Striders with their sunglasses motif. I think it was a good homage to that while staying very Roxy, which is why I personally like them, but I understand why people wouldn't.
I think I wouldn't have minded as much. We're getting too deep into Beyond Canon.
Yeah.
we might be getting at this point, I'm just too deep into Beyond Canon. I have thoughts on that, but I'm gonna pull it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull it back a little bit. We get to see Roxy playing like a therapist to Dave. He clearly has a well-established dynamic with just about everyone on the ship, But that dynamic is usually just like being very helpful to someone who's not listening. Which, you know, fits the void aspect, I think.
Yeah, I think it fits very well with the void aspect.
I'm not much of a class spec person, but I said that out loud and I kind of put it together in my head.
Jade Route's class spec theories are like crazy. It's like got on some crazy meta levels. The whole monologue Roxy does where he's like, oh, the aspects are kind of like a movie set, and when you think about it in this way, all the aspect elements are kind of parts of the different. It's a very fun framing of kind of, I think, a thing that a lot of post-canon works dig into, which is the idea that, like, the aspects aren't just, like, a very literal representation of, like, superpowers or, like, physical laws, but they also represent kind of, like, the metaphysical properties of narrative itself, and that if you put all the aspects together, you would get the format and structure of Homestuck. It's just a very fun idea to prod at, and I just love... I'm a nerd for it, you know?
Yeah.
I do really like it, and I also like how Rage doesn't really get mentioned, but it's kind of implied that Rage is the janitor, I guess. The janitor of the movie set, which I think is funny. I don't know what that even means.
Oh, and I almost forgot, I was mentioning this earlier before the show, there is also a June cameo here, which I did not notice the first time I went through the story.
It's very quick, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's very quick. I wonder if I saved it.
It's like crazy seeing out. Melon, if you want to get into it while Tempest is looking.
Yeah. The thing that I was going to say is, like, going back to, like, the class spec theory, like, it's interesting how there's the obvious things for each, like, aspect, that, like, class spec of, like, oh, it's like light is light, and then, but, like, then there's also there's the metaphysical thing, and there's also the narrative thing, because, like, when it comes to light, you've got, like, actual light, and then the metaphysical thing is knowledge, as well as luck, and then when it comes to the narrative thing, it's relevance. It's like, and if you look at every class spec, you can determine, like, what each part of that is, and I think that Jade Route does really, like, a really good job at, like, showing that a little bit more.
There's like one or two things in terms of the way that it presents things that I think are very, very funny, and I would love someday to sit down with the old workers, the Aspect Factory, and talk a little bit about some of the specifics of how it kind of represents things. I think making Breath, like, the, I guess, cinematographer is a really funny decision, but I don't know, I love it when works go into this. I love the different perspectives on this, and I just feel like it's all very, very deeply compelling. Jade Route is so cool. It's so goddamn cool,
Wow.
people.
It really is.
Wow, this movie sucks.
Yeah, she says that.
I didn't actually save that panel, but I went and I looked for it.
Yeah, no, it's a very good day. There's also like a second cameo later on, right at the end when Vriska shows up. She tries to name drop June, and the metaphysics of the world won't let her.
Oh yeah, I didn't really know what the fuck was going on there.
Yeah, I think it's leaning onto the idea that, like, you know, who knows if June is called June, you know, but she's June.
Right.
Yeah.
could be using some other name.
It's really funny if nobody's ever really thought of. Imagine what happens if Homestuck Beyond Canon continues or whatever, and the next update it's like, oh yeah, I'm going by Jean now. I'm Jean Edward.
It would be really,
you
really
can call
funny
me Gene for short.
if just
Sorry, that was a dumb joke. That was an Autopraxis bit. I don't know if you've read that yet.
I have
Mel.
not. I have not read Autopraxis.
It's a character named Gene Short.
Oh, I thought you just meant that in the sense of, like, the idea that you've shortened the word Gene from, like, one version to a different version that's slightly, like, shorter, but it doesn't parse as this.
I'm glad you thought. I'm glad you thought that highbrow of me.
Oh, well. You know? Alright. The other thing I want to talk about with Jade Route, and really the last major note I have here, is just kind of like the visual style of it, like the art itself. Because I feel like the art is so beautiful. It's like so expressive.
It's gorgeous. It was the first thing I wrote in my notes. Literally first thing I wrote in my notes was that I love the sketchy style and the 1 pixel brush. It's just beautiful, and the way that it also doesn't feel like it needs to strictly adhere to that. It has an almost like Psycholonials type effect with the way certain images are very clearly upscaled or downscaled, and then there are drawings just right next to them at that new resolution. It's very weird and slapdash in a way that feels very indie and authentic.
Yeah,
definitely. It feels very grounded in the emotions it is trying to sell rather than trying to be the most polished version of itself. And I find this, I think of this as a virtue.
The way that I explained it was like, it's kind of like a dichotomy between expressiveness and clarity. Like, there's some panels who are super duper expressive, like the line work and like the way that it drags your eyes and like the really, really intense expressions you see characters go into. But sometimes it isn't always clear like what they're physically doing in the space when they do that, you know? Because the emotions are so heightened or whatever, the scene kind of falls away, you know? Sometimes this happens with text too, where like you see shots of like walls and walls and walls of dirt text which are like reversed or flipped or stretched out or some like there's a lot of text in this that is literally just straight up unreadable, you know? But just seeing the text there and the cadence of it and the highlights and the major words there, it kind of does enough to tell you kind of what the gist of it is, you know? It feels like it's meant to be, I feel weird saying this, skimmed over. Like, you can read all of this, and every single word is beautiful, but some things you literally can't read, and some things are clearly framed in a way where you can kind of get the gist of what's being said, and then move on. It feels like it's almost using words more as like a visual cue for something than as like a literal actual text you engage with in a very traditional sense. Although you can both, you know?
I do really love that. There is a transcript linked on every single page of Jade Route, and you know, the transcript has as much information as the most scrutinous human eye. There's not hidden Dirk dialogue that goes beyond the boundaries of what you can see through the tears. It like you say, it is meant to be skimmed over. You can look at it if you like, but it's more of a visual cue, and I do very much appreciate that the transcript is there. Because even if it's just for emotions and cues, it's nice to just have it be accessible and able to read for those who have trouble with that.
Yeah, I will also say, because we are currently in the process of doing an edited dub of Jade Route, oh my god, it helps with voice acting too as a script. I had to go through and I had to color code the entire thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's very useful. I'm glad that it already existed.
I have to mention the Jade Owl fight scene again. I already brought up that they were fighting earlier, but the Jade Owl fight scene is maybe the most impressive. Maybe impressive isn't even the right word. It's the most fascinating thing that I have seen done with Homestuck's mechanics and not style, but you know, with its universe and its mechanics and its aesthetics.
Honestly,
it utilizes the idea of a panel as a specific place and time that, you know, you can attack someone with a place and time. And that's just very interesting to me. Just morphing all around the way that all of the Jades, you know, come out of their individual panels and they're on the same page. For the original Fraff trailer that came out, friend of the show, Mansta, animated that, or at least part of it. And that was fantastic, too, to see that realized in a form that was moving. I don't know. It's just an absolutely brilliant segment.
Honestly, for my money, I'd say that's maybe the most visual, impressive, like, kind of Homestuck fight in, like, a visual format. But in terms of the way that it uses its aspects and, like, kind of, like, the way that it uses, like, the logic of aspects to determine how fights go, it actually reminds me a lot of God Feels. I felt a lot of God Feels. Still not gotten 3.2 yet, but even some of the fights in 3.1 still do a lot of this what you're talking about here. That kind of like very kind of visceral, very you feel it more in your gut more than anything else. How these aspects are so abstract and so grandiose that you can kind of do all sorts of weird, nonsensical meta bullshit and still have it make sense. It's cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird. I actually wouldn't have thought to compare God Feels at all, but now that you mention it, it makes so much sense. Which, by the way, Dare, I'm so sorry. I didn't even read the first chapter after Stomach. I started it. And I wasn't lying when I said I started it, but I haven't read any more since. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, listeners. If she doesn't fix that soon, I'm going to be doing some stomach shit to her.
No need to worry, Dare. Your good buddy Otterday will, in fact, force her at gunpoint to finish the rest.
Yay! Sorry, we're kind of hitting them with the bros attacks.
I was gonna say on the fight something else. I think one of my favorite kind of dichotomy between this expressiveness and clarity is in that fight, where like a lot of the early panels or whatever are actually pretty clear. You can kind of very much see that like, okay, this is Jade, this is supposed to be this old panel, this is this old shot. It does a lot of detail effort in sort of recreating these panels and even kind of messes with them, kind of, flipping them vertically or sideways so they are panels in 3D space and not just like flat images, which is always fun to see visually. And then like, right, the fight kind of goes through this, that, you kind of get a good feel for how things go. It's pretty well paneled. And then right when you see our Jade go in for the kill against Alt Calliope, the panel we see next is like the craziest shit ever. Like we see like Jade literally like ripping in and ripping out like a huge chunk of Alt Calliope's like shoulder. You see blood everywhere. It's all reds and deep velvets and violets and crap. It's just like such a violent, visceral panel, and it's hard to even tell where one body starts and the other ends. It's more just one big moment of violence. And then the very next panel is just Jade in her cute little Musa space outfit. It's like the best payoff ever. You go from like very clear fight to incredibly violent expression of just pure physical violence and then clarity. She's cute. She's having a good time, It zooms you kind of in and out of the reality of Homestuck as a story you're experiencing in the world versus Homestuck as like a comic on your computer screen you can watch for cool bits. And I find that kind of dichotomy to be genuinely beautiful and fascinating to see out and play. It's just like, nobody else is doing it like the big old H-Stock,
I have in my notes here for right after the fight scene, Jade Route has plural Jade, basically. Jade and Allie are treated as plural, and I love that. I love it so much. And I love Jade and Allie's stupid little awful crush on Dirk. I also have written here that Dirk became a hands boss at some point during Jade Route. Now, I don't know what the fuck I meant by this.
Well, yeah, what?
I don't remember Dirk becoming... Like, how Mario has a hands boss, Zelda has a hands boss. You got the pyramid one.
Yeah.
You have the yeah. But I don't know what I meant when I said that Dirk is now a hands boss. Oh, that was when he was puppeting everyone. That makes sense.
That puppet scene was great, by the way. I do want to state just like framing Dirk's control over the narrative in like a puppetry way like that was brilliant.
It's really good. I also the call between Dirk and Roxy where he's like, there's no way I didn't save that. I didn't save it. Fuck. It's the part where Roxy's like, yeah, Hall of Mirrors if you want to impress. Okay, see you there. And then they fucking get to Dirk's ship, and he has a fucking Hall of Mirrors.
What was his problem?
Good. I don't know. Like, he called up Roxy, said, "Hey, what do you think I should go with for my secret base? What do you think I should have as the lobby?"
And listened, and he listened for some reason.
He learns and he listens. Another thing I do want to talk about real quick is I really like the chapter structure of Jade Route. I like how, the chapters are not explicit most of the time. You only really get the sense in the URL of the page that you're on and like the title of the images.
Yeah.
But I really like the way that it's structured because it did feel structured. And I also like that chapters can be like 1 or 2 pages if that's what Spicy Yeti decides to do that day.
Same way that
It's very free form but also structured.
yeah, same way that Homestuck has a couple acts that are literally only like a single flash.
That's true. I think Collide's basically just 1 page, right?
Yeah,
Collide is, like,
Collide's 1
literally-
page. I'm pretty sure Game Over is literally just 1 page.
No, because they go...
Yeah.
They slide out of Game Over. After Game Over, they slide in... Because Game Over is the end of Act 6, Act 3, but it's not the end of Act 6, Intermission 3. That continues a little bit after, because after that, Condi kills Irani and all that.
Right. So it's a little bit longer, but that's still like nothing in Homestuck pages,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. And Act 6, Act 4 is 1 page. That's the Nobles Flash. Obviously, the Big English Flash, Intermission 2. I did just love this.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty just loves this shit. Yeah, no, it is always very, very fun. I also, again, I'm gonna have to be a little bit selfish here for this purpose. I love the epilogue. I love the little coda there. I love Vriska showing up. I love stories that are not about Vriska, where Vriska shows up anyways, because we have to acknowledge that she is, in fact, the main character of Homestuck, and that things aren't just gonna happen without her being present in general.
That's true. That's true.
And then, like, immediately thereafter, like, the Vriska and Trezzy, who is just also there, but she's not logged in right now. They fuck off a little bit to do some June things or whatever. And then, meanwhile, we cut back to, like, Jade on the ship, and it's just, like, an entire page of Jade just doing hot girl shit. It's like, they literally do nothing else but just to be really mean to Karkat and, like, the concept of men. And then the story just kind of ends.
It's really good. I actually kind of went back and forth on my feelings about the ending since I originally read it and this recording. For a while there, I kind of felt that that the epilogue was just kind of a weird non-ending that didn't really feel final. In a retrospect, and also upon seeing the orange and the orange glow that is consistently happening to your face as it turns between orange and gray on the fucking page that you're on, I know you're there. I can see it in your fucking light on your camera.
I know.
But just remembering that and like how it's presented, and it's really good. It's really good stuff. I something that I really hope they find space to do again in some Homestuck project is the idea of the background changing to change whose text is visible. I just really like that.
Yeah.
My stance here is that, again, completely, just direct, no funny business, just 300 pages of Jade Harley killing people. She's having a good time, she's having fun. Jade Harley versus Son Goku. Call me up, Spicy Yeti. You know my Discord.
God.
I have here responses. I put out a form asking for people's thoughts on Jade Route, and I have a bunch of collected submissions. I feel like this is a good time to read a few of these, which you might notice Odd is the first one here.
Should I just read my own first, or how do we want to do that?
You know what? Yeah, go ahead
for
and
it.
read your own.
All right. Jade Harley can kill people. Jade Harley should kill people. Many people are saying this, but only Spicy Yeti had the courage to deliver. Sketchy art, the character voice, the metagags, there's so much going on, all in kind of service of selling this one specific take on Jade. Like, my one complaint really is that I wish we had more time with the end result, lol. See? Pass me agrees. By the time the story ends, I was just desperate for a 4,000-page web epic about this new Jade Harley dicking around causing problems on purpose. And so the wait begins.
And as part of this form, I did make everyone agree to give their permission to use their submission in whatever manner I desired. Makes me wish I had printed them out or something. I don't know. Make paper airplanes and throw them in a river or something. That I can do anything with them.
You're allowed.
That's
my
true.
right. I want to read Hope's submission.
Yeah.
Hope, who goes by she/Bark. Jade Route has such a narrative horror to it that I haven't seen since. The expressive style captures such intense hunger, fear, and joy that made the story I'm gonna start that again. Jade Route has such a narrative horror to it that I haven't seen since. The expressive style captures such intense hunger, fear, and joy that the story had me by the neck the whole way through. And it kind of still does. And it makes Homestuck about Jade. Plus, it's got the cannibalistic power scaling that I love so much from the Locked Tomb series. So what's not to love?
That's what I'm
I have
saying!
not read Locked Tomb.
I've also not
I
read
haven't read Locked Tomb.
I have read Locked
I don't know
Tomb. That's in there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I believe you. I do believe you. I remember that I checked that out of the library. I think multiple times I checked it out of the library, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't make it 15 pages. Something about it. It's not the story's fault. It's my fault. I'm a bad person.
You are. You are.
How could you?
Tamsin Muru was on her hands and knees out in the desert trying to work on this, trying to render this out. Literally manna from fucking heaven. Man. We'll talk. We'll talk.
We've got Etchetty, who goes by Chi, They, and more. What started as confusion grew into wonder during my first read-through of this absolutely seminal work. I think reading Jade Route made me appreciate post-canon storytelling for the first time when I was in my little shit didn't know how to read era. Then on further rereads, I appreciated it more and more. The CSS shit, the horizontal scroll. This is what Scott McCloud was talking about when he meant webcomics have unlimited potential. Jade Route finds it and harnesses it to tell one of the most important post-canon Homestuck stories, period. Which, this mentions the Scott McCloud stuff that was brought
That we
up.
were mentioning earlier, yeah.
And I have to say, what I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about how I knew of Jade Route while it was coming out, I was also in my little shit didn't know how to read era. I was one of those people who was really sour about the epilogues. I was one of those assholes. I got better. If you're like that, you can improve as a person too. It's possible. I've done it.
Read Jade Route. Jade Route comes out of the screen and she threatens to kill you with a gun.
She routes all over the place.
She routes all over the place.
Mel, do you want to read one?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Benethan, who goes by, I guess just she, as it says here.
Just she.
No her. Jade Route is so perfect to me. Whenever I think about a resolution to be on canon, I just think about Jade Route, especially the bit at the end where everyone has the power to narrate. It feels so in line with Homestuck's ideas about narrative control and agency. Narrative and control and agency.
Right. When we were talking about the ending earlier, the reason that I was kind of down on it for a while is because I think everyone having the power to narrate is kind of uninteresting compared to a lot of the things that other post-canon works do. I feel differently about it now. I think as a conclusion, I think it's really good and it's really fun. And it pretty much does everything it needs to. It's a great fun time.
I do like the bit that Karkat does where he's like, yeah, everybody, like, it's kind of like narrative control becomes more like a forum that you go into than like an actual, like, it's not like a thing you are, it's just a thing you can do in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like it a lot, especially now that Homestuck has a forum again, and there's a lot of people yelling about that kind of thing these days again. It's nice to see discussion is still healthy.
Discussion was never healthy.
Luna Stage Lights, who goes by She-It. Jade Route is very cool conceptually, and I heard lots of good things about it from friends, but it never really clicked for me. This is not to say I think it's bad necessarily, but it just wasn't something I felt like I enjoyed, and I'm not even necessarily sure why. I do understand why people like it, though. I'm just not one of them.
Well, I actually have some interesting thoughts on this. Honestly, I get why people wouldn't like Jade Route. I mean, I can never really presume why any one specific person might not click with it, but I do feel like its very stripped back approach is like it's a very much like, here's a story about Jade Harley specifically. Here's a story about kind of like, there's a lot of interesting structural play, but there's not a lot of kind of like structural cohesion, if that makes any sense. It's kind of using all the elements of the epilogues and Homestuck proper as kind of like pieces to kind of rip away at the fabric of, The story ends in a very kind of defined certain way where it's hard for me to really imagine where the story would keep from there without becoming something completely different entirely, you know? Like, it is a very much sort of like, almost like a graduation from Homestuck, you know? Like, here's all the things we can do with it, here's how much we can progress it. I'd say it's kind of like God feels in that sense as well, where it's kind of like, you know, let's just do something else at this point. We've kind of got everything we need out of Homestuck right now. And, like, I do love that. Like, from an artistic perspective, I find that beautiful and interesting. But I can imagine why it wouldn't necessarily grab people in the same way as a story that feels a lot more kind of, like, bathed in Homestuck's kind of DNA. Or at least a story that maybe had elements of it that it focused on that appealed more to the parts of Homestuck that you were focused on. You know, it's very... The tunnel visioning, it's very specific and very good, but it does mean it can't have the kind of insane wide appeal that a work like Homestuck with 1 billion characters and 1 trillion words and all these different bits going on really, you know, is able to do.
Yeah. Mel, do you want to read the last one?
Yeah, I can read the last one. Lavender Siren, who goes by they, them, says, it's powerful, raw, and satisfying Jade-centric post-canon perspective.
Which I think is why a lot of people do love it.
Yeah. And I honestly, like, throughout us talking about this, I have been thinking, it's like, I think just, like, Homestuck, the fact that Homestuck, like, I know we were talking about it earlier, but I think the fact that Homestuck itself doesn't really have a main character, and it just kind of, like, bounces between a lot of people who are quote-unquote, like, the main characters, I think, like, the idea of making a fan work that really centers on the perspective of any of them is gonna get interesting because of that, especially, like, if it's something like post-canon or, like, during canon, like, just focusing in on their perspective comparably from, like, everything else. It's the same reason why, like, stuff with, like, the Homestuck POV cam mod was really fun and, like, interesting.
Homestuck was, to me, a story that I mean, I discovered it when I was a teenager, but it helped me kind of realize that everyone is the main character of their own story.
Yeah.
Everyone is the main character of their own life. And I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of works out there that can spur that realization in someone, but Homestuck was the one that did it for me. Does anyone have anything specific that they want to mention before we wrap things up? Oh, gotta touch on Yours, Mine, and Ours. Yours, Mine, and Ours. I don't know when it was posted. I don't know when it started. I don't know when it ended. I believe it was for a Halloween jam.
Yeah.
I actually have the page up right now. It was created September 27th, 2019, and it was last updated on November 2nd, 2019. So mostly ran over October of 2019, which makes sense.
Yeah, it was part of some Halloween jam, I'm pretty sure. It's about Dave and Carcat's horrible children. I don't know, it's a horror story, weirdly. It's a very creepy horror story that oddly enough felt it's very silly, it's very goofy, but it ended up being very heartfelt in the end in ways that I was not really expecting.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, like, how it's like, oh yeah, this whole thing and all these horrors that are in this house are being made by basically a Dave that is sort of going crazy trying to come to terms with the fact that Carcat is coming to the end of his life, really.
Mm-hmm.
I find it, like, because, like, Homestuck already has these very long themes of, like, you know, the violence inherent to authority, parenthood, authorship, and then, you know, the scary, Candy is all about the scariness of the nuclear family, yada yada. But it's very fun seeing work that kind of just takes all these ideas and just amps the horror element to, like, 20,000. Not like folks sitting with, like, you know, it's just a kind of creepy or kind of uncomfortable. It's just full on, like, oh yeah, your dad is the final boss of your life, and also he's like Dracula. But in this case, Dracula is just a version of Dave whose ironic elements have gone just so completely off the wall as a cope for all of these different emotional struggles he's been having recently, that he becomes this, like, unfathomable, I mean, you know, literally what he has always been, a weird, unfathomable time god, you know? It's very fun seeing Homestuck media that really leans into the idea these characters are just, like, kind of removed from the human experience, and that this change has kind of forced a lot of weird twists and turns in the people we are ostensibly familiar with, good at projecting onto, you know?
Yeah. I love Barack Obama Dave Cat.
Barack Obama Dave Cat.
I love John Dave Cat also.
Who then transitions to June Dave Cat down the line.
This is inevitable.
Yeah.
Spicy Yeti, when are we gonna see it? I know you're fucking listening.
It's in the bonus comics. Did you not read the bonus comics?
Wait, there's bonus
there's
comics?
bonus comics for yours, mine, and ours where she transitions and is then June Dave Cat from then on in the bonus comics.
What the fuck? I didn't know that. I didn't know what told me.
There's bonus comics. Go read them.
Okay, I'll read them after this. Just Spicy Yeti's so fucking good at this shit. I gotta read Y12K.
Super good.
I've had a tab open for Y12K for like a month now. Still have not gotten past page 1, but I need to.
It's incredibly good. It touches a lot on like gender and gender expression specifically. And it's really, really good. I highly recommend it.
My next go-to, I think, is probably going to be Spicy Yeti's Godhead, which is a completely original work. I believe it has parts of the MSPA style, though, or the MSPA style. So I guess like an adventure comic. But entirely different cast, strong focus. Slavery is just straight up in the tags, which I find is raw as hell. I just feel like I would love to see Spicy Yeti's talent talking about different ideas, different concepts, and kind of moving away from being just Homestuck specifically. In as much as Spicy Yeti's continued contributions to Homestuck are like, Spicy Yeti dug out,
Yeah.
But I always love seeing artists' own spins on things and the kind of way that, being forced to build your own project from the ground up really does give you the opportunity to build your own language of this,
Mm-hmm. So, before we end, does anyone have any recommendations? Whether it's things that you're working on, things you've read, watched, or played, just anything that you want to recommend to someone listening to this.
The only thing I can think of was the same thing that I recommended last time. Go read Desynced, guys. I really love Desynced.
Play Unbeatable. It's an amazing video game. It's a great video game.
This is true.
RJ Lake and the team are like gods among men. And they've made some real cinema. It's great.
Yeah, everyone that I recommend Unbeatable to, they play it, and before they finish it, they tell me they hate it. They tell me there's so many things about it that they don't like. There's so many bugs. And then they finish it, and they're fucking crying, and they love it.
I think that there's just so much stuff happening in that game at all times, and it's Unbeatable is a game that, in very similar fashion to, like, say, Undertale and the like, has so much clear, like, lineage from and like respect to a lot of those Homestucky origins. I can't really say that every single game made by a cool 20-something or 30-something hipster or whatever from the Tumblr 2015 is in fact just like a Homestuck project, but
Yeah, I backed Unbeatable. I gave them like $52 because RJ Lake was attached, and RJ Lake was one of them Homestuck guys. It was basically the entire reason I gave them money. Rhythm game by one of the Homestuck musicians. That was it. That's all you needed. But I played it, and it was so much more than that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love art. I like seeing the ways that Homestuckness is like as a style and as sort of a both property, individual, and also sort of as a style that people take influence from, evolves and changes with time. Because I find this to be, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it interesting, all the different ways and voices people have on this and the ways they kind of build up this whole grander tapestry of creative freedoms. I don't know.
I want to recommend, but maybe check out Romeo is a Dead Man. My girlfriend's been playing it and she's just been going bananas over it. And I'd also like to recommend, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on the appropriate platforms like YouTube, Blue Sky, or wherever podcasts are hosted. This episode was edited by Daria Cascado. Intro music Delta version by Rom M. Outro music Pangea Protoplasm by Ash Taylor. I'm Tempest2K.
I'm Oddity.
And I'm Melanie Archer.
And remember that even your depression wear should be absolutely popping.